Hola, animigos, and welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding livestream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw.
And I'm your host, David Khorshid, also known as @DavidKPNO.
And we've got some green screen issues. Hold on, let me fix you, David. You're disappearing on me.
That's just my skin.
You're back. You're back to the futuring.
I literally am.
What time zone are you in finally?
Like my body or me?
I guess a little of both.
I am in the Eastern time zone right now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good to have you back in a relatively stable time zone.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we've got more to go here. Sorry, let me adjust levels. I feel like I'm clipping. There we go. Well, together we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions.
Yep, that's right. And we're going to be creating an animation. And actually, I'm going to be teaching Shaw a little bit of something from scratch live using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
That's right. And this show is made possible by your support. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers or hit the like and subscribe buttons around the video, subscribe on Twitch, all that fun stuff. And we've got additional links available below.
Mm-hmm. And we're also happy to answer any questions that you may have, especially about XState, state machines, or whatever. So please reach out in the chat or the comments.
Yes. And if you're watching this later on our YouTube channel and are short on time, you can skip ahead to the summary at the end using the timestamp link for Keyflections in the description. And if you're joining us live, thanks so much. Sorry if the bitrate keeps dropping out. Again, working on that. But thanks for coming along on the journey.
Yeah. So we have a challenge. And so the challenge is from Mikey, also known as @CodingDive on Twitter. And so that's why we're doing this episode today. I'm going to go ahead and post that tweet. It just says, maybe treat yourself to actually using XState once in a while on the Keyframer stream. And so we'll take it.
Yeah, let me see that. That's a good challenge. I think we talk about state machines every episode, but I don't know that. Have we actually used XState at all yet?
I don't think we have. We actually haven't, just because all of the animations we've done, we thought about it in a stateful, events-driven model, which has worked out really well for all of the animations that we've done. But using XState, none of the animations we've done really necessitated the use of a full-on state machine state chart library like XState.
Yeah.
But that will change.
Well, right. Let's try it out here. I'm excited to learn because I have been using state machines like just at CodePen and in our animations and everything like that, but never specifically with like a full proper setup. So
yeah. So I went ahead and posted again what the dribble we're going to be doing. This was actually chosen by Shaw, so
you can blame me.
Yeah. So this is one which seems simple in theory, but is actually more complicated, as you would know, or anyone watching the stream would know if they've ever tried to do any sort of drag drop operation, would know. It's not an easy thing to do.
No. So looking at it, how many states would you say there are?
Well, that is always a good question to ask. So we have, idle, where nothing is happening, right? And then we have dragging. And dragging is when the mouse is actually, or the pointer is on the file in this case. Mm-hmm. And then we have, if we don't drag over the folder, then we move back to idle. But if we do drag over the folder, then we need to do something different, which is that whole drop animation. And so that's dragged. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we're going to have 3 distinct states over here. And you're going to see how it's a lot easier to think about this animation in terms of states and transitions rather than just trying to hard code it.
Yeah. I dig that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah, this is a cool little animation. I didn't want to go with anything too complex. So it may not be as like wild and like things flying across the screen as a lot of our animations can be, but there's going to be so many little subtleties to it as we get into it that you'll see. So shall we start coding?
Yeah, sure. I have a bit of, actually not much stuff code at all. We were basically making two elements. We have a file and a folder, and how we want these to look.
Yeah, I was trying to see if the asset manager had a file and a folder, but it doesn't look like there's one readily available. Let me see if we can pull some just SVG icons real quick. I'll hop on.
Yeah, go for it.
But
man, those colors are inaccessible. Let me let me see what I could do in terms of file folder. Yeah, right now, no state machines, just working on the styling. And me choosing better colors because I'm picky about my colors. So we're going to make this, make the file background color of something a little bit more exciting. We have this orangey color, so that works out. Yeah. We'll also make these boxes. And set 2 pixels. Where's our box? Oh, are these on top of each other? Yeah, all right, so we have justify content center, line items, so this should be spaced around. Or space between. Nope.
Box.
Yeah, so both the file and the folder are boxes, and they both should have that 1 pixel solid black, but it looks like they're on top of each other. My CSS is failing me. Yeah, this is embarrassing.
Weird. Just switch it to border, just to be sure. Box width, height. Display flex.
Yep, they're on top of each other. Huh. That's so weird. We have display flex direction row. Usually it just works out that they're, why are they on top of each other?
That is very strange. Well, let's just...
There's no position absolute... Oh, wait, there is position.
Oh, my goodness. David. David, what have you done?
I'm ashamed. I thought you thought that position relative on everything was bad. Try position absolutes.
Oh, geez.
Wow. That is my bad. And I am ashamed.
As you should be. So, yeah, we can do this.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We have a file. We have a folder. Shaw's adding a margin. So, so I think it's about time that we dive into state machines, like right now.
Hooray.
Yeah, I know. You're so excited.
I am.
All right, so I did the liberty of adding XState in here, and you're going to see a lot of these things are actually really similar to what we've been doing in previous episodes if you've been watching. But in order to ease the process of creating a state machine, there's something called create machine from XState. And so let me just make sure that loads. We have console.log.
And XState is included here in the pin settings under external scripts. So if you're wondering, that's how it's in there. So that's how we're going to pull from it. And then console here. Yeah,
it shows. We're good.
We've got some stuff.
All right. So here's the general idea. We have those 3 states that we talked about, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to make a drag drop machine, and that's going to be create machine. And I'm going to let you fill this out.
Oh, no.
So let's figure out what's our initial state.
Is going to be
It's called idle.
Yeah. Okay.
And you don't need to uppercase it. You can be lazy about that. All right, so now we're going to have 3 states. And so idle, you just give it an empty object. Dragging, sure. And
drag over?
Well, let's call it dragged. It doesn't matter. Naming is, yeah. Okay, and you're done. Just kidding. Sure, dropped. Okay. Do you see how easy that was?
Yeah. So we're all we're all done.
Yeah.
Great.
That's the initial process, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what this does is this is helping us define each of the exact states that we're going to style, that we're going to add logic for, that these are the only like possible views that our application can be in, essentially. So what we'll do after this is now define the actual flow of that.
Yep, the transitions.
Right. So how do you do that in XState? Is it on?
All right. Yes, it's on. So you're going to say on this event, this is what happens next.
Mm-hmm. So on click or on.
Let's go with
mouse down.
Mouse down. Yeah.
Just like that. Okay.
Is there a way to auto format this?
Yes, kind of. Which it's
because there's an extra space. Well, wasn't there something new that came out with CodePen?
So we did just release a format on save option, but we have to disable it for collab mode because it's an async like formatting thing, so it sends it off and then it comes back, and so it messes with things if you have like somebody else typing and then all of a sudden their code's gone and their cursor's in the wrong spot. So that's currently not supported, but TBD.
I want to see it in action. That's okay.
Well, you still can click from the menu here and format, or Command Shift F, and that will run it. But it can result in some weird cursor placement if you're not careful. So mouse up, we'd go dropped, and then
that's our final state. Well, or actually, yeah. This is your state machine. It's whatever you want to do. Aha, resets. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so that's all I'm thinking.
That works. Where's our auto format? I'm just gonna format it manually.
I don't know why it's not getting these. So we're just using Prettier under the hood. So I don't know why Prettier's refusing to space correctly here.
Wow. All right. Yeah, we're having some fun with that. Because why is it 3? This is tabbed 3 spaces. That's criminal. How is that happening?
Yeah, I don't know. Looking at
there we go.
Let's see. Behavior editor. Yeah, we're doing spaces and indent with 2. So I don't know. All right.
So let's take a look at what's happening here. We have our state machine definition. That's great. We put it in the machine. That's awesome. But nothing's happening, right? So let's say that I'm going to put the next state over here. Let's say that our drag drop machine is in the idle state, and let's say that an event happens, and that event might be type mouse down. So this is how the machine works. If we console.log that next state, you're going to see a big object, but it's going to tell us what our next state is, unless we have an error.
Yeah, it's saying...
Oh, sorry. Dot transition. All right, so you have to call dot transition. And it said, sorry, this log was too big for our console. Worry not. We're just going to log out the value. Just think of it as a big object with some cool stuff, but the value is dragging.
Nice.
And that's exactly what we want, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, we could set up something to, like we've done in previous episode, keep the state somewhere, keep track of it, send events to it. But there's an easier way to do that with XState. So there's something called a service. A service is a machine that's running. So you could think of it as microservices, I guess. That's why it's called a service. Basically, we're turning this machine into something that's running. It has its own state, and we start it up. Also, we could listen, and this is going to be the important part when we actually apply animations. We could listen to the state that's in here. So I'll let you do whatever you want. Go for it, Shaw. And we're going to start over here. Yeah. In the meantime, I'm going to map those events that we have, like mouse down, mouse up, reset. Let's start with mouse down. I'm going to map that to an actual event. So we could say lfile.add events listener. Remember, same thing that we've been doing for the longest time. Mouse down. And the event, we're just going to send the events right over. So we're going to say drag drop service send events. And I mean, right now, nothing's going to happen. Shaw's adding data states to the HTML.
To the body, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'll do that real quick. So it's going to spit that out in the body.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Content, attribute, data, state. Object. So is it state.value?
State.value, yeah.
Okay. Idle. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
So what happens if you put your mouse down?
Let me get that up in the corner. Okay, it went to dragging. That's great.
We could probably make that bigger. 2 rems. Boom.
Nice.
Okay, it went to dragging, but
which is what we want.
Yeah. Let's add a few more event listeners because right now this isn't that exciting. Unless you're excited, then I'm excited that you're excited.
I'm kind of excited.
Okay. All right, so you see what happened?
So idle, dragging, dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's essentially what we want.
Yeah, it is. And then, of course, we have a reset. So maybe if we put a reset button somewhere there, I'll just do I wonder if... There we go. We have literally a reset button. We are being semantic. Reset. Cool. And we could probably style that a little bit better, but
yeah. I'll just get that implemented. So type equals reset. I do that, and then now would it be possible? So in like on transition, if state.value equals dropped, then drag drop service dot send reset.
So you don't want to do that because right now anything that lives here is outside the state machine. Like this will work. Like there's nothing that won't stop that from working. I'm just saying it might be an anti-pattern because now you have 2 or more places where your logic lives. So what are you trying to do? You want to reset?
So I was thinking, right? I was thinking that all of the logic would live in this on transition.
Well, so this is for how you want to display the state. Like the logic lives in the state machine itself.
Okay.
But if you really wanted to reset immediately, I'm going to show you a cool trick.
Yeah.
Look at the drop state. So this is one of the cool features of XState. I know because I made it. There's timed transitions. And now remember, transitions are always, always, always zero time. When an event happens, a state transition is going to happen immediately. So when I say delayed transitions, what's going to happen in the background is it's going to send something to an internal clock saying, hey, remind me to do this in 2 seconds. And then in 2 seconds, another event's going to be sent, and that's going to cause an immediate transition. So I'm going to say after, and then I could specify 2 seconds, which is 2000 milliseconds, go to idle. So now try it out.
Okay. Let me remove this logic. So we're in idle state, dragging. So we should probably bind the mouse up to document dot. Yeah, just document.
Yeah, view. L body.
L body.
Yep.
Okay, dropped. Okay, yep, and it transitioned. Now that seemed quicker than 2 seconds.
It was not.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you get those time transitions for free for a limited time only. That limited time is forever.
I will take them.
Because XState is MIT licensed. Okay, so this is, I don't know. What do you think?
It's looking like a state machine to me.
Okay. So right now might be a good opportunity to, I'm going to go ahead and copy the state machine definition and just throw it into the visualizer, which we've shown in previous episodes. And I just want you to see how that looks so far. So I'm going to go ahead and save this and paste it right in the chat so that everyone could play around with it.
Ooh.
And so that logic for drag drop, and this is one of the most important features, is that logic is transportable. You could use it anywhere. It doesn't matter what framework you're using. This is sounding like an infomercial. Or if you're using a framework or not at all, or if you want to reuse that logic somewhere else, you could do that, because it's portable. And you could also verify that the logic is exactly what you want by going into this visualizer and, just testing things out.
Yeah, I like that visualization of the timeout. That's really great.
Yeah, thanks. There is an edge case bug because of how CSS animations work. If you reapply the same animation, it doesn't restart the animation; it just keeps going. So, but other than that, yeah. Okay, so what do you say we actually start dragging this around?
Okay, I'm for it.
Move. Okay, so now we introduce the next big concept of XState, again, nothing is XState specific. This is all state machines and state charts. It's been around for over 30 years, so nothing new. And that is the idea of extended states. Now, extended state's a mouthful, so this is called context or contextual states. This is all of the extra states that you want to add. So I'm going to say SHA, add some extra states. And I'm just going to start off, we want X, Y, DX, DY, pointer X, and pointer Y. Those are the 6.
What kind of state?
An object.
Sorry. What kind of states are we talking about here?
So this is just extra. So we're going to be adding, actually I'll go ahead and do this. X, Y. So X and Y are going to be the X and Y positions of the, actually we'll say that that's 0. That's going to be the X and Y positions of the file. DX and DY are going to be how far we're dragging away from the original position. And how we measure how far we're dragging away is by capturing the pointer X and pointer Y. And the reason that there's pointer X and pointer Y is that you could click anywhere within that file. And we have to, in order to determine the DX and DY, which is the distance traveled, we need to know the original position first.
I suspect that we do not need X and Y. we can just calculate pointer X and pointer Y on mouse down, and then on move, we're just calculating the dx and the dy to apply as like a CSS variable or something like that, based on the original, like the initial click would be pointer X and pointer Y, and then dx and dy would be calculated from that based on the mouse move.
Well, so the problem is, let's say that you click in the center, right? So let's say it's 50-50, and then let's say that you move it so it's, plus 10, plus 10. So now it's 60-60. So how are you going to, like once you release the mouse, so how are we thinking of styling this? Do we just want to do it as a transform?
Yeah, that's all I was planning.
All right, fine. Well, let's keep this here just for now, just in case, but we're going to be working with these.
Yes. Okay. So context, this is kind of like in React, like old React, where you would like declare the state variables that you wanted to use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in order to work with this, I need to show you something else. This mouse down dragging, this is actually a shorthand for, all right, this is a shorthand for mouse down target dragging. So it's basically a way of saying, when my mouse goes down, my next target state is the dragging state. So exactly the same thing. But when we make it into an object form, now we could do actions. And actions are those effects that actually happen based on whatever. So in action over here, I'm going to pull in something else from XState. There is an action creator called assign. And assign is going to tell XState, once I do this transition, here's what I want to assign to the context. So I'll just do this one real quick, because we want to capture the pointer X and the pointer Y. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'll capitalize that pointer X and pointer Y, so it's not like pointery. You could keep those lowercase. I don't know. Right. Well, what's your opinion on that? Okay. You know what? They're all going to be lowercase.
Everything's lowercase.
Yeah. All right. So assign, it's going to, all right, every single assigner is a function that takes in two things, context and event. And you're going to see for 99.9% of the things you do, those are the 2 bits of information you want. And so we're going to return what our updated context is going to be. And this might be reminiscent of Redux for some of you. But basically, we're immutably updating our extended state here. So we're going to say our pointer X is going to be the events.clientX, which does have a capital X, and pointer Y is the event.clientY.
Right. Okay. So what happens to just make sure I'm following along? So in the idle state, when the event mouse down is triggered through this drag drop service send event, then we are targeting the next state of dragging. But yes. Before that happens, we run these actions, which is an assign function that's going to update the context. And we receive all the event data that was passed in. And so we're using that to update our pointer X and pointer Y.
Yeah, so exactly right. In short, the target says, go here, and the actions say, and do this. So these two are basically happening at the same time. Go to dragging and do this.
Okay.
Same time. I'm also console logging the context so you could see what's happening. So go ahead and do a mouse down.
Okay. Yeah, we got 459 289.
Cool. I have completely different numbers, but I trust that yours are Correct.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we're in the dragging state, and yeah, we have mouse up, dropped, and so I'm going to give you a challenge.
Oh.
Challenge time.
Oh.
Okay, so we're going to say mouse move. And again, I'm going to use that object syntax. The targets will still be dragging because we're not going anywhere. We're still dragging as long as our mouse is moving. And we are going to do actions, assign, context, event, turn, context. Go ahead and fill in the rest.
All right.
What happens when we're dragging?
So dx would be pointer x. Context dot pointer. Oh no.
Math.
Context dot pointer x minus event dot client.
Well, I would say it's the other way around.
You think so?
Yeah.
Time will tell. And then we'll do the same thing for y. All right.
Cool. So now we just need to add that event listener.
So L body.
Yeah, good call.
Mouse move.
By the way, one common mistake that developers make, and by developers I mean me, because I make this mistake a lot, is adding mouse move to the actual element that's being dragged. The problem with that is sometimes the mouse is faster than the element,
yes.
And you will escape the element and things will be lost and you're no longer mouse moving the element, and it's just frustrating. So you want to add it to a bigger container, in this case, the body. All right, so go ahead and drag it around, so to speak.
Okay, so why, let's see. Why am I getting a console.log every time I just mouse over?
What do you mean?
Like I'm just moving the mouse and it's logging everything out. Where
because we are listening all the time to the body.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
I am glad you mentioned that because I've thought of this too. Well, oh yeah, so I console log this.
Yeah.
But I could say over here if states.changed. You don't need to do any manual load to the state change, to shallow update, whatever, It's just state.changed. It's a very simple variable that tells you if the state changed. And now you're not going to get those annoying messages unless it actually changes.
Okay. Yep. So
all right,
now
so
I'm getting some DX values. Now it's CSS variable time?
Yes, it's CSS variable time.
It's always CSS variable time, David.
Yep.
Translate. So I'm adding those in to the CSS in anticipation. Var dx times 1
and we're testing your theory here.
I
thought we needed 6 variables, but I could be very wrong. I really hope I'm wrong because having 6 variables for drag drop is pretty annoying.
Trust me, David. So lfile.style.set property dx state.context
yes
.dx.
Yep.
And then dy. However, this is only going to fire once, right? No. Oh, there we go. If state.changed.
It looks firing a bunch to me.
Yeah. Okay, so state.changed. Now, what does that mean in this context? It means that we transitioned with a target. It doesn't mean that we didn't go from dragging to dragging.
Right. So state.changed means either the state value changed or the state context changed or no state changed, but we executed some actions.
Okay.
Now, see, this is why we have this assign action instead of other libraries where you're like, oh yeah, just mutate state or update state whenever you want. The assign action is literally saying, hey, I don't know what's changing. I'm not going to figure it out, but I know that something is changing in the context. And so it's a really, really, really performance way of signaling something changed. You don't need to do an object comparison or whatever to figure it out.
Nice. So yeah, that dx and dy seems to have worked as expected. Was there anything else with that you were thinking needed to happen?
Sort of. I mean, what happens when you try to drag again? It does weird stuff.
So yeah, it does. Well,
it's not a bug. It's just something we forgot to do.
Right. So we're not. We're not resetting. Ideally, when we reset, it'll go back to its initial position or a stopped.
Even before reset, we could do it right over here. And so right now I'm going to show you actually an easier way to use a sign. I mean, this is a straightforward way. Like, it's just like Redux where you have your states and your event, or they call it action, but you just return the updated state. But over here, I could actually provide it an object and tell it, here's what I want these values to be. And so what I'm thinking, let's see, we have the dx and we have the dy, we have the pointer x and pointer y. I'm going to go by your theory, and I'm going to guess that pointer x should be 0 and pointer y should be 0 when that happens.
Yeah. Well, dx and dy is what we want to reset as well.
Oh, okay. So, but when we reset it, the thing's going to jump. So what do? See, that's why I had X and Y.
Well, so there's really only like two positions of the folder other than it following your mouse or the file. So the file can either be in its initial position or in the folder whenever the state is idle.
Okay, fair enough. So you're saying you want everything to reset. If let's assume that it's not that didn't go to the folder, or let's assume that it did. All right. So basically now I'm going to change that time to be like 1 second instead of 2 seconds. All right. So now we're dragging, dropped. It goes to idle after a while.
Yeah, and what we could do is do a transition. So data state equals dropped. We can do transition dot file, transition transform. 1 second cubic Bezier 0.5 0 0.51, and this will just kind of snap it back into position in theory.
In reality.
Yes, in reality.
It does work.
Nice. And we can make that a little snappier too.
Whew. Yeah, that is snappy. All right, now let's actually make it so that I'm going to add an element for the folder. So we're going to have L folder. Yes. And that's going to be document.query selector folder, because I want to capture. I'm not sure if this is going to work. Like, can we actually capture mouse over when we're dragging something else?
I believe yes. I believe that will still trigger. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it should in theory. I'm just thinking like if my mouse is hiding behind an element, but that's silly.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, we're sending the mouse over event. Okay, so I want to say, all right, we have dragging, mouse move, mouse up. Okay, so here's what could happen. As we're doing mouse move, mouse up can happen, but there's two different places that mouse up can happen. It could either happen over the folder, or it could happen outside the folder. And this sounds like an extra states to me, whether we're over the folder or not.
Mm-hmm.
And since we could be dragging in both of those states, I really don't want to duplicate all of that behavior in dragging.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're going to introduce nested states, which are not as scary as they sound.
Hooray.
I promise. Yeah. So I'm going to say the initial state, and this is the exact same structure as the machine. We're going to say the initial state is outside, because it's like outside the folder. And so now we have two states, outside and inside.
Interesting. So each state is its own machine? Kind of?
No, not its own machine. They're all still states. And
it's machine-like?
Sort of. No. Yeah, that's the confusing part. In fact, it's a lot simpler than that. When we're in the dragging states, at first we're also in this dragging.outside states. Okay, so let's just call this dragging.outside. But we could transition within that dragging parent state. So again, when we're in the dragging.outside state, we're both in this state and in this state, because this is the parent state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can think of these as like classes for each of the states. And I'm just going to illustrate that by our dataset.save. We're going to say json.stringify state.value, because now we're going to see that instead of it being a string, it's going to be an object. So go ahead and drag and you'll see what I mean.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Now, obviously that's not going to work with our CSS because we have data state. We want to know if it is exactly dropped or dragging, etc.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought of that too. There's state.toStrings, which will give you an array of the values, and we're going to join those with the space. And that's going to be fine. But now instead of data state equals dropped, it has to be data space squiggly equals dropped.
Okay.
So squiggly
does
equals, it? Yeah.
It seems like for dropped it's fine, but for dragging,
for dropped, it's fine. Dragging, we will need that squiggly.
Okay.
And in case you don't know the squiggly, here on data, I can't spell today. Attribute selectors. Basically, the squiggly just means treat it like classes, right? Classes match if it's a space separated part of the example or of the attribute. I'm doing a terrible job explaining it, but I posted a link in the chat.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so you'll see everything still works, and we're going to add a mouse over to the folder, and I'm going to add a mouse out to the folder as well, just so that we have both of those, and I'm going to show you how easy this is. So in both outside and inside, I could say on. Over here, we'll say mouse over.
Sorry, where are you?
I'm on line 43.
43 of the JavaScript?
Yes.
Okay.
So when I mouse over, now I'm in the dragging.inside state. So now does it make sense? We're both in the inside state, but we're still dragging. So that's what that means.
Okay, and is this is just specifying this okay? Mouse out, mouse over, and mouse out, or will that trigger from like our L file? I guess we're not specifically using those anywhere else. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's fine.
I don't know if mouse over works, by the way. Let me, for our L folder.
Yeah.
So console.log event, mouse over, if that's a word. Yeah, I'm not getting any mouse over events.
So I think there's a.
Wait. Oh wait, just kidding.
Did it work?
Nope, not getting it.
Yeah, I'm not getting it to trigger, but so I think there is a drag over. But I'm not sure. So JavaScript events. Let me see. Let me pull up the events.
We could also add pointer. Actually, the simplest solution to this is we could just say pointer events none while that file is dragging.
Yeah.
That won't affect anything because remember, we're listening to the body, not the file.
Right.
So that's a simple example. And if you Stack Overflow it,
hold on.
Oh shoot.
Yeah. So do file pointer events none, and then we'll do cursor grabbing for the body. Okay, mouse overed triggered.
Did it trigger? I'm not seeing it trigger.
No. So for data state, squiggly equals dragging.
It should be pointer events none. I mean, I definitely get mouse overed when I, hover over it, but
yeah.
I really want to get it when, stat state dragging.
I just make sure everything inside.
Make sure we're, yeah, weird.
Yeah, so that events equals none.
I mean, we could z-index it too.
I mean, we can always just go display none real quick. Oh gosh. But see, even that isn't triggering over that. So mouse over. So does it need to be mouse enter instead? Let's see.
I mean, we could try that. See if mouse enter works. Okay. So enter does work, but let's see if it works with dragging. Did we get entered?
I
should stop logging context.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take that out and let's see.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's
okay. Good. So, all right. So that should be something that we talk about in a future episode or something. Mouse over versus mouse enter.
And mouse out versus mouse leave. There's a difference there too. I forget. So mouse out, no longer contained within the element or one of its children. But it also triggers if you go over one of the child elements. So we want to do mouse leave instead. So mouse out to mouse leave. There we go. Okay.
So I do have it set up so we have mouse enter inside, but it is not changing the state. Are we sending that event? So we are sending that mouse enter event.
Yeah, it seems to be.
And wait, let's see, mouse leave. All right, I'm going to go ahead and comment that out because that would be the only thing that could really change that. Yep, no, it's not entering. It's not the state machine's fault, I promise.
Are you sure?
I am so sure. So we have initial outside states, outside. On mouse enter, we go inside. That should...
When we're in the outside state, on mouse enter, we go inside.
Yeah. All right, so one thing we could do just for debugging, we could... let's console.log the state.events.type. And so that's going to tell us what all is happening. So we're mouse moving. And then
there's
what
a mouse
happens?
enter triggering, but it's, gosh, that's very fast. Can we do it in state.changed? Does that
Yeah, we
help?
can.
Okay. So mouse move. I mean, mouse move is just continuously triggering at that point.
Oh, okay. I see what it is. All right. So it was a state machine. It's a modeling problem. So,
Bam, bam, bam.
yeah. So on mouse move, we have target dragging. So it's going to completely exit that state and re-enter it again, which we don't want to happen. So I'm going to say internal true, and then I'll explain. Okay, now it works. All right, so this internal true, it's more of an advanced topic, but basically the default behavior is whatever state we specify, it's going to exit it and re-enter it. And when it re-enters it, it goes to the initial state. If we don't want that behavior, we have an internal true. And that basically says don't change any states, even to yourself. Don't change anything, just stay where you are. And so that's not something I invented. That's part of the CXML spec. So blame them for that.
But it still does the same like action kind of updating and everything like that, right?
Right. Okay, so things are working. So now, this is awesome. Okay, so we have outside working, we have inside working. I'm guessing you're adding some styles for.
Yeah, it's dropped.inside or dragging.inside.
Mm-hmm.
Dragging.inside. Doing that squiggly equals again, so we'll say open SD0, closed. SD0, open, SD1. Okay, let's see if that does what I'm thinking.
What are you thinking?
So I've got... Oh, so this needs to be class equals opened. That's what it is. Or class open. Okay. Yep. So try dragging now.
Oh, that's cool. So the file opens when it's over. It is still snapping out, and that's what we're going to not fix, but that's what we're going to refine in the state machine. Because what happens is on mouse up, no matter what happens, we go to dropped and we just reset everything. But that's not exactly what we want to happen every single time. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and comment this out. Because the whole reason that we add these states outside and inside is because we want different behavior to happen, whether we're inside or outside the folder.
Yes.
And so for both of these, we could add mouse up. And then this is where something different happens. And so we could say the target's going to be dropped. Yeah, dropped. But only in the only for outside do we reset it, right?
Right. So this we could actually just go target idle, right?
Oh, yeah, we can. Good call. So target idle, and also here's something cool. There's entry and exit actions, which right now we've been doing actions, these assign actions for every transition. But we could specify them for every single time we enter or exit a state. So we could say an entry action for idle would be to reset those values, meaning every single time we go to idle, we want those values to be zeroed out. So we want dx0, dy0, pointer x 0, pointer y 0.
Nice.
Cool. So just testing this behavior now. Dragging's not working. Not sure why. Did we change anything?
I don't know. I mean, we changed a lot of things. So on mouse up, so dropped on reset. Good question. I don't know what broke.
All right, don't worry. Quickly debugging.
Man,
That is weird. All right, checking the. Oh, invalid definition for state node machine.dragon.outside. Child state idle does not exist on machine.dragon. Ah, okay. So it didn't show up in the CodePen console, but it showed up in the console. What happened was we're saying on mouse up target idle. Now, because we're in a child state, these are meant for siblings. So you see how inside is a sibling of outside? So idle is not a sibling of any of those, but we could still target it by giving it an ID of idle, and then just like your CSS ID syntax, we could just put that there. So that's sort of escaping the children. And yeah, okay, so now it should, wait, child state dropped does not exist on machine.dragon. Ah, yeah, same thing over here. So dropped, and I'm going to give this an ID of dropped. Okay. Sorry about that. Just a few things that I forgot to.
All right. We're getting the tree. Okay, because you're logging the context. Let's get that out of here. There we go. Boop. Nice. Okay.
So what happens if we're? Oh yeah. So if we're outside, it just goes to idle, and so now we could actually do what we're best at and animate it.
Yeah. So we could say, well, so on file, we can just do a transform, or the transition transform up here. And then we can say, while dragging, we're going to, so let's just do file here, transition, none. And then that'll take care of that. We can move that a little bit, and we'll also say opacity 0.3. Yep. That
so you
essentially
works. Want to I don't know, zoom it out. Scale it down. That's what I meant. So
like when it's dropped?
Yeah, when it's dropped, like have that cool little shoo.
Yeah, let's go back.
With the sound effect, which you could add an action for a sound effect. I mean, that's what side effects are all about, right?
Yeah. Okay. So looking back at the original animation, clicked on, and it tilts a little bit and scales down.
So we could tilt it.
So let's copy our transform here, and we'll say transform, and then we'll do scale 0.8, rotate negative 0.2 turn.
Cool.
Oh, that's a bit too much. So let's just do like negative 10 degree.
It's a lot of changing.
Yeah, that's more what we want.
Yeah, and so when it's dropped, we want it to scale to 0?
Yes. So we can say yeah, we can do that down here. So data state equals dropped. We'll do file. File, transform, translate, because we do want it in the same position, and then we'll do scale 0. In theory. Yep, that works.
It's gone and it's back. I love how that automatically just works out. That just, goes back to its regular position. With these borders. That's fun.
And we can add in, wow, there we go. Do a comma there, and we'll do dropped here. So we leave the folder open while it's dropping in. Come on. Boop.
Also, we could add a style, and this is pretty cool, when we're dragging .inside. And see, this is why I have these nested states. It's so important for that. Where's our... Oh, yeah. So we have dragging inside. I'm gonna go ahead and copy that. Because we could say transform translate y like -1 rem, and also box shadow 0, 1 rem, 1 rem.
For the folder?
The background color is. Yeah, for the folder. Okay. So I could just RGBA that. Oh, wait, I can't.
No.
Yeah, I have to do this, fortunately. So now when you hover, data state equals drag. Oh, I forgot the and.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay. Sass. Haha. So now we could just transition, or all. Cool.
Nice. Yeah. I think this is in a nice little spot for us to summarize. We can, play around and get more animation going. But I think this is at a nice spot to summarize.
Yeah, I think so too. We've done a lot.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Let's go into Keyflections then. So we're now moving into Keyflections. A quick review of the techniques used to build this animation. If you have any questions, ask us in the chat. We'll be happy to answer.
Also, if you have enjoyed watching this so far, you can follow and subscribe here on YouTube, or you could pledge at patreon.com/keyframers, and the links are available below.
So today we've been learning XState with the author, David Khorshid, one of the primary contributors. Is it yours fully?
It's mine.
Okay.
It's mine. Yeah, we do have a few other contributors as well, which thank you so much for your help if you're watching this, but yeah, it's my baby.
Well, you've done a great job raising your baby, and we've been learning that today through this drag and drop file animation by Nikolai Dimov. And so we broke that down into a few states, and we got all that plugged into a machine. So DOM-wise, we really just have a folder and a file with some SVG icons in there, and then style-wise, we'll just kind of get into those as we talk through the states and stuff. So walk us through what's happening here.
Okay, yeah. So first things first, we establish our finite states. In our finite states, we have 3 of them. We have idle, dragging, and dropped. And so idle means you didn't start moving the file yet. Dragging means you did a mouse down, and now you're moving the file. And dropped means we dropped it over the folder. And so now we have to define how these states can transition between each other. And so the way we do that is with the on property. So the on property says when this event happens, such as mouse down, go here. So we go to this dragging target and do this. And so these actions are side effects. And in this case, this side effect is updating the context so that we can keep track of pointer X and pointer Y. And also there's a lot easier way to write this. I didn't tell you. I wanted you to learn the hard way first.
Oh man.
But Yep. Yeah, but yeah, all you have to do is that. So same sort of thing, you could provide assignment functions for each one of these properties, and you get all those. It's pretty nice. So yeah, so when mouse down happens, we go to dragging. And so here's sort of a lay of the land of what happens in dragging. Ignore this whole substate thing for now. On mouse move, nothing's going to change in terms of states. So we're going to stay in this dragging state, and that's why we specify internal true. We also have the side effect of changing dx and dy. Again, we could use our shorthand function, but I'll do that later. And then eventually we go to dropped. So how we get to dropped? Well, that's where nested states come in. So dragging, we have 2 child states. And so this just says when we're in the dragging state, at first we're also in the dragging.outside state, which means we're dragging outside of the folder. But while we're dragging, we could move inside the folder, or we can move outside the folder. And so initially we're outside, and we have this mouse enter event that says, oh, hey, we moved over the folder. And so that's going to move us inside. So now we're in dragging.inside. And if we leave that folder, we're back outside. If we move up, now we're in the drop state. And that's sort of the parent state, parent sibling state, like an uncle state or an aunt state or something like that. But basically, if we're inside, we've dropped it. If we're outside and our mouse goes up, then we're back to the idle state. We're back to square one because we didn't move the file inside the folder. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And finally, we're in dropped. And whether you click reset, which I think you deleted the reset button, so we could just remove that out. But yeah, one really cool, at least I think so. You could tell me if it's cool. You could tell me it sucks. I don't care. But I just wanted a really easy way to set up, timers. So you could say after 1 second, go to the idle state. It's like GreenSoft, but simpler.
Is that your tagline?
Yes. When I make my new animation library. Just kidding. We'll see.
Yeah. So, right. There's a lot of the same kind of state machine logic that we've been working through and talking through in our other episodes. But there's a lot of conveniences added here in XState. And that makes it easier to not have to have a whole bunch of logic in this render function or your own transition functions or anything like that. The convenience of XState, including handling a context, which is kind of like React state, and easily setting those with actions. It's nice. I like that. And then, so down below, we have all of our actual event bindings. So you can see how the drag and drop service is sending. This drag and drop service is basically how did you describe it? It's the service running the machine. Yeah.
So the machine is just a template. It's like the DNA for how your logic is supposed to work. But obviously, it has no states or anything. Well, I mean, it has state, but it's a stateless thing. It's just describing, hey, in theory, this state goes from here to there. If we want something that actually keeps track of state and something that's alive that we could send events to, that's why we create a service. And so we interpret this machine, and we start it, and now we have an individual service that we could send events to, and it's going to keep that internal states that we could listen to via on transition.
Right. Right. So the machine is the code, and then this interpret is kind of the compiler, right?
Yeah. Or well, the interpreter. It makes it come alive.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this interpreter runs the machine code essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where all of the action is actually happening, and we have this on transition. which is a nice convenient event callback, essentially. So anytime we transition the state, if the state has changed, we're going to set the document.body.dataset. That's a data attribute, so that we can map things in the styles, like when you're grabbing, do the grab cursor, or when you're dragging, do the grab cursor, and we're also setting the position of the file to dx and dy. So that's what's actually moving the file around when that happens. So you can see that here with file, we've got the transform translate dx dy, and that is applied in the dragging state as well, with some additional scaling and rotation to give that fun effect.
Right. And what XState forces you to do, which is really good, is you have these finite states that you describe what your app is doing, instead of is dragging or whatever. Now we have these explicit dragging, dropped, idle, dragging.outside, which makes it really, really, really simple to style, because you could just throw them in a data attribute and you could style it that way. And that's what we've actually been doing in every single one of our episodes, at least most of them, at least. And it's been, at least in my opinion, it's been a very, very straightforward way to have those dynamic styles represented by each of those states.
Yeah. But yeah. So other than that, we just have, some of our standard kind of styles, where we're targeting based on the current state. We're just changing things based on that, like swapping out the open and closed folder icon and scaling that up when you're dragging inside. Most of that, we've covered in the rest of the episode. So it's go back and watch it if you're curious for more. But that's essentially how to use a state machine for drag and drop.
In fact, I didn't tell you this, but we actually made a states chart, not a state machine.
Yes.
We went a level above.
We sure did. So we've got the XState visualizer for it here. I think we actually have you updated that?
Oh yes, there we go.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So that's cool. It's got the context and everything mapped in there as well. So this is the full state chart. So on mouse down, go into dragging, and then outside, mouse enter, you're inside, mouse leave, you go back to outside, mouse up, it's going to take us back to idle, mouse down, mouse enter, mouse up, we go to dropped, and then bam. Wow. Okay, so that's awesome. This is the wonderful XState visualizer. When you use the standard standard XState style, it's able to interpret that and give you this full chart. That's great. Well, so far this episode, I've been wearing my Keyframers CSS shirt, but I think after all this lovely work, I think it's time to put on my new shirt, where I heart finite state machines. So before we go, I think I better do that. So you've been watching Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream, and thank you so much for joining us. If you've liked state machines and want to see more, there are plenty of ways you can support us. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers. That's huge. You can visit our merch store at keyframe.rs/merch and get cool shirts like this and this. Yeah, there we go. And nice. You can also like and subscribe at youtube.com/keyframers. And we actually have a new Keyessential that you should definitely check out. If you head on over to youtube.com/keyframers, you can get our latest Keyessential, where I dive into doing a footer reveal, which is a really cool effect from the markup.com, and I just using very, very little CSS gets a really cool effect. So go check out that video. And what else, David?
Yeah, it's a really good episode. I'm really liking these key essentials. I'm going to record a few myself. Basically, they're bite-sized tutorials that teach you some really cool things.
Yeah. A lot of the techniques that we just kind of gloss over or mention repeatedly, we'll try to break down in these mini tutorials as well, so that you'll have a reference in the future.
Mm-hmm. Also, we do accept submissions for future episodes. So if you want to see more state machines or more of something else, you could tweet at Keyframers or any of us with any animations that you would like to see made. Again, thank you, Coding Dive. Yes, Coding Dive, for the suggestion to use XState on the episode. Hopefully, we satisfied your challenge. Also, please be sure to share this video and demo across your social platforms.
Yes. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We've had a great time today. Hopefully you can check out XState and start using that on your next project. But until next time, adios, amigos.
Adios.